Yes. Welcome everyone. A very, very warm welcome to Satsang, to meditation, to going inward. And a warm welcome to all the friends who are joining us around the world online. If you give us a little sign whether you can hear well. So we have the microphone, but sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it works, so it would be good to know. So why are we here? I can only tell you why I am here. I'm here because you are here. And these gatherings are just a wonderful reminder of the true essential things that we often forget during day-to-day life. In day-to-day life, our attention is mostly outside, outward, with objects, with experiences, with people, with also thought forms, with emotions, with things that we can actually observe through the senses. I had a longer talk with one of the friends who has done a lot of courses, a lot of therapy, a lot of investigation. And I think she did 10 days vipassana meditation, where for hours you sit. When I did 10 days vipassana in 1980, we started at 4 o'clock in the morning and we ended at maybe 10 or 11 at night. And just sitting. At the time I didn't know anything about meditation. And it was first absolute torture, and then it was bliss. And my mind couldn't really understand why that shift, what was happening. And only many, many years later, it dawned on me that who I thought I was is actually not me. It's a bunch of labels that I have been given. And the lady I talked to today, even though she did so many courses and so many explorations, she asked me who she is. And somebody else today I talked to, the person said, well, I'm not a sugar person, which means she doesn't eat sugar. Or I'm not an astrology person. Or I'm not a gluten-free person. You know, we make all sorts of labels to define the person. And very rarely I meet somebody who says, I'm not a person. I think the last time I directly heard someone say that was in India in 2008 or so. I'm not a person. First time I heard it was from Osho many years ago, in 1980, where he said, I'm not a person, I'm a presence. And many, many years later, after crossing out many identifications, many labels that I thought I had put on myself, but it wasn't me putting it on myself. It was my surroundings telling me, you're a beautiful guy, you're an intelligent guy, you're a little bit shy, whatever I get told who I am, it started already as a kid. No? I was told I'm intelligent because the outsider, the so-called non-intelligent, was my brother. He was 2 years older, or he is still. And he occupied the place of the rebel in the family. So that space was taken. Then I needed to find the other side, the gentle, beautiful guy. And I made a definition out of that. And when that got challenged, I remember my first therapy group in Pune. My therapist kind of provoked me and found that I can be a very, very angry person. It didn't fit into the label that I have heard from everyone else. You know? So all I heard again and again is, you're too nice and people will take advantage of you. I'm just giving a few examples because probably everyone sitting here, or also those friends who are listening, we all heard these opinions from other people, and then we made a patchwork of identification out of it. No? So preferably, of course, we take that which works for our ideals. So being kind, or being nice, or being intelligent, or being successful, or being brilliant, or being cool, whatever the fashion of the moment is, we tried, at least I tried, I don't know about you, we tried to fit somehow in that image, and then we tried to create a stronger and stronger personality out of it. Did you do that also? No? I think we all did that. And hopefully then, sometime in your life, you begin to ask yourself, well, is that actually who I am? No? And then the more successful or the more specialized one becomes, the clearer the labels are, and then eventually we believe maybe a part of it is true. And eventually, when you then start, or when I started, the actual search of who I am really, which started, of course, also with a course, with the Enlightenment Intensive course, where for hours and hours and hours you answer the question, who are you? And first you answer all sorts of things that you were told, and you realize nothing of what you say is who you are. And then, you have to apply for a job, and then they ask you your religion. So the choice was Christian, Protestant, Catholic, and then what else? And I just wrote none. But that in the school I was going was not acceptable. You must be something. You must be part of a religion. Well, are you am I my religion? Millions and millions of people defend a belief that they think they are. And they are gentle defendants, like the Buddhists. They usually don't fight so much. But even the Buddhists in Myanmar, they have been throwing out earlier, many years ago, they've been throwing out the Muslims. There were big fights because the Buddhist religion was threatened, apparently. So the more we move from just simple changing behavior into beliefs, the more imprisoned we are into a certain category that we then have to defend. Or it's the same thing, I listened to the news today that we still have 80 soldiers in Afghanistan. Now, what do Australian soldiers do in Afghanistan? What do American soldiers do in Afghanistan? It is such a strange thing that if we carry the identity, I am Australian and you are, Steve is not Afghani, but maybe you are Afghani, and in Afghanistan there is all these different tribes that battle against each other, and do I have a right to interfere there? Only if I believe my identity is more intelligent, or more together, or more peace-loving, or more whatever. But all these labels are simply labels that have not much to do with who we truly are. So then, personally, I went onto this quest, well, I cannot really know, I still don't know who or what I am, but I know what I'm not. And then we come into a very interesting field, because, and take a deep breath, you have to check that, don't believe me. Any label you give yourself is not who you are. Just take that as a possibility if that's not your discovery yet. How can we say that? The moment you give yourself a label, you don't see your reality anymore. Now maybe you don't do it with yourself, maybe we do it with others. No? For example, when you move into a relationship, when you fall in love. First, you meet a person. You already give a few labels, and usually when you fall in love, then you give positive labels. Oh, beautiful, wonderful, intelligent, loving, present, and so on. No? And then the honeymoon eventually reveals the hidden secrets, and then honeymoon is over, and then the pain body acts itself out, and we get very disappointed. You know, I thought you're such a nice person, and actually you just totally ignore me. How come? And then when you have moved through the honeymoon and the pain body situation, then there's a chance that something deeper is met, which is the chance for love. The love that doesn't move into a relationship. Now that's a big topic. I'm kind of just listening to myself. I said, shall I really go there into a relationship? No. Because I often heard myself say that relationship is a ship that sinks. Why? Because we fall in love, which means we were love, and then we fall. No? And then whatever looked like love has become bondage. We take each other for granted, and when the other doesn't fulfill your expectations, you're going to be pissed off. But nobody is here to fulfill your expectations. Everybody is here to live. So I think relationship is a very beautiful way to discover our labeling and to discover what we do with each other if we are not aware that this moment is all we ever have. It's a tricky thing. No? Everywhere around the world, people fall in love, and then they come closer, and then there is this system called marriage, which means you need somebody else to sign the contract that you will love each other till death parts you. Is that possible? You don't even know what happens the next moment, and you promise something that you can never keep. Even if you stay together till you die, you haven't kept the promise. It was just a good luck. Or it was basically love supporting itself more and more, if you're lucky enough. How did we get there? Identity. Yeah. So the whole play of being a human is, first we do all sorts of things to become somebody. At least that was my game. Yeah. Become a doctor, become this, become that, become good in this. And this is very, very beautiful to a certain extent, because it allows us to express the gifts that we were born with in the most intelligent way. But unfortunately, then we also create an identity out of the gifts. And then we say, I am a good doctor. Then you're already caught, because that's not who you are. Or I am a good boyfriend, or a good husband, or a good whatever. And then comes the reverse journey, where we start to eliminate everything that we think we are, which is happening through turning in, through not listening anymore to other people's opinion, or listening to them but not taking them into your identification. Everybody is free to say what they want, and we can listen. But unless we have found an inner ground, we will stay totally dependent on people's opinion. And many, many people just, spend their whole life, what will people think of me? Yeah, the neighborhood. What will the neighbors say? That was a saying in my family. How can you behave like this? What will the neighbors say? Well, the neighbors, it's not their business. They can say or think whatever they want. Can I be what I am already? And that's where the spiritual journey starts. And that journey, even if you have the most beautiful friends, that journey is alone. It is, nobody can know your deepest nature. We can have a glimpse of our own nature ourselves. But the moment we give it a label, it's not who we are anymore. I remember it was actually more in the eastern countries, but I think in Australia is also like this, and in Germany or everywhere, that we are so concerned what other people say. And the trouble is, when somebody says something positive, we feel good. When somebody says something negative, we hurt. Is that who I am? It's just like a leaf in the wind. The wind blows this way, the wind blows that way. And then we move into, we meet a master, or we move into Satsang, and we gather with that deeper question, well, what is actually that which says I so many 100 times a day? I feel, I think, I love, I hate, I. There's always this I. What is this I? And then when we investigate, we find that this I is not a thing. I am not a thing. Anybody has touched that already? Yeah. So who am I if I'm not a thing? Then I'm not an object, then I cannot be experienced through my senses. And eventually we find I'm presence, I'm a field, I'm a limitless space that cannot be defined, because space is infinite, it has no definition. Space contains definitions, but in itself is not a definition. So even the name, the word space is the attempt to make something out of something that cannot be said. But the beauty is, from the very beginning, somewhere we knew that I'm not an object that is defined, because everything is changing. Somehow we feel attracted to like-minded or like-no-minded people that also have somehow had a glimpse of, I would call it nothingness, a glimpse of spaciousness, a glimpse of the infinite. So for me, sitting together with one or two or three or 10 or many, many friends, and deepening into that indescribable space is such a joy, is such a blessing. So I can always say thank you for being here. It's different, it's beautiful to sit alone, but it's also like an amplification to sit in presence with more and more presence. And that presence is healing. It is healing on so many levels without actually being focused on a specific level. I was asked today by very close friends who are book publishers and writers, and they've been organizing my courses also. And in Germany. And the newest book is in German Die Kraft des Weiblichen, the power of the yin, the power of the feminine. And I read a little bit about in this book. It's a very, very beautiful, very simple pointer to an aspect that is overlooked in most of humanity, actually, which opens the space of the feminine, which is the receptive pole. Receptivity is usually not so much honored as aggressivity. Resting is usually not so much honored as moving, and so on. So the feminine, which is very much or very little understood so far in this culture, or in many cultures, is very beautifully described in many aspects in this book. So they asked me to write something like a how you call that, a testimonial or something. And I wrote something that I heard Osho say, which made a lot of sense, which I also share in the Tantra course. It's like, it's not that one male or female is better, it is just that there's an imbalance, that the world in the moment is governed by male energy and the female energy is overrun. That's why what we do with the earth. No? The earth is feminine, the earth is our mother, and we exploit it. No? Now, Steve even told me today that they shot how many satellites into the 60 satellites into space to bombard us with 5G all around the world. And it's not a conspiracy theory, it's actually real. And that in the same time, last week, many people suffered headaches. Now, when the feminine would be included in that couldn't have happened. It is like the male aspect of conquering without the feminine receptivity and holding is very, very imbalanced. So what does that have to do with spirituality? I heard Osho say, which makes a lot of sense, that the male path, the path of action, of creation, it's a very beautiful path, but it never brings you to freedom. It doesn't liberate you. It doesn't make you enlightened. Why? Because it needs the you, it needs the ego, it needs the doer, it needs the active young energy, to move. And that can only bring you to the door, because there's still a you, a separate self that fights, that moves, that pushes, that conquers, that is aggressive, basically. And the last step in our awakening is always feminine. It's not in our hands. It's in the hands of the whole, of the space, of the infinite, of the divinity, of the whatever you call it, of grace. And grace is an aspect in our life that the male or anything else cannot control. It is always here. It kind of showers on us every moment, and only if we become totally receptive, totally feminine, we will not notice it. We will not live it. We will not allow it. We will not dissolve as an ego. I find that very, very powerful, because I work a lot with relationship and with Tantra, and to actually hear it so clearly. It doesn't mean everything should be only feminine, but a balance is needed, and in that balance, healing is possible. And who knows how that will be possible for humanity, but it is definitely possible for each one of us. This is why awakening, from my view, is a very beautiful possibility, because we can only awaken if we are not there, if the I has surrendered itself to what is. So that's kind of the introduction to a quintessence that came to me this evening from Aurasoma. Aurasoma, as I said, is a beautiful color care system that works with fragrance, with vibration, with color, with touch, with fragrance, with smell. And it can attune us to certain qualities. And today Saint-Germain came. And Saint-Germain is a light violet quintessence. Violet is connected to the crown. You may have heard of the violet flame of transmutation. The transmutation is not a thing that is a change through doing. It's a change through allowing. It's like alchemy, the turning the baser metal into gold. And it's a secret wisdom. So Saint-Germain is a master healer. The crown chakra is connected to the whole universe. So the outer universe connected to the inner universe. And when in the universe, anything that is out of balance is held in space, it's a law of nature that everything falls back into balance in its own way. And my guess is the newer and more modern medicine will be very, very different than what we're doing right now. I used to be a doctor, and it's still happening. It's like the Western medicine is a male aggressive medicine. It's like it's like we attack the virus. And now there's a huge virus everywhere, and we're still trying to attack it and think there's a solution in that. And I think in a more intelligent medicine, we create a space in which nature, grace, whatever you call it, can find its own intelligence to bring into balance what is out of balance. And we would just support the balance. I mean, some of the modalities in medicine work like that, like acupuncture, for example, or energy healing, or meditation. It is all space, movements of space, or openings of space where the nature can find its way. So in this regard, Saint-Germain is the master healer, healing not just disturbances in the body, but healing the imbalance between male and female, healing the inner conflict that is hidden inside through our belief systems, through our ideals, through our identifications, through our beliefs that we are separate from everything. So, shall we try this? You want to stand up for a moment, and I give you 3 drops of Saint-Germain. We're going to go into a little ritual with that. drops, and when you receive it, you can rub it into your wrists and close your eyes. Just feel into that vibration on your wrist. And let it guide you towards looking within. What do you feel within you needs support, needs balance, needs healing, needs to come back to the source. Then you can raise your arms high above the head. Imagine you're growing wings from the core of your spine to your fingertips. If you like angels, you can become an angel. And allowing your wings to open and close above the crown, crossing over at the midline of the body. Bringing the vibration of Saint-Germain, of this pale violet fragrance, into all the layers of your aura. It's almost like you're creating space in the opening to the whole universe, above you, below you, a vast opening, endless. And in the embracing the inner universe. Our inner world is as vast as the outer world. We usually forget that. And here, just through that movement, the inner and outer can merge. And then when we come to the forehead center, in the opening of our wings, we can imagine we're drawing aside the curtain of our identifications. Anything we think we are can be drawn aside. And in the embrace, we can embrace the capacity of our forehead center, the third eye, to see reality as it is. It doesn't need any label, doesn't need any interpretation. Seeing what is pure awareness. That's who we are. And then we can allow our wings to open and close around the throat chakra. In the opening, drawing aside another curtain, another layer, the layer of our beliefs. And in the embrace, we embrace that space beyond belief, which is creativity, expression, understanding on an existential level. And silence, the depths of silence. And here, in that open space of the throat, we can find trust, the climate of trust. And then we can open and close our wings around the heart. In the opening, we draw another curtain, the curtain of all our shoulds and should nots, all these ideals. And we have been following ideals mainly for the purpose of attracting love. How I should be, so I get loved. How I should not be, so I don't get rejected. And that is, of course, has nothing to do with love. It's a conditional attention giving or attention withdrawing. So when that curtain is open, we can embrace the heart in its innocence, allowing your wings to rest over your heart for a moment. and receiving the vibration of Saint-Germain deep in the silence of the heart. And we can open our wings again and embracing the solar plexus. In the opening we can undo our whole armor of protection. The solar plexus is where we carry all these strategies and defense mechanisms like competition, judgment, comparison, tyrant, victim, all these strategies that protect something that doesn't actually need protection. In the embrace, we can embrace our uniqueness, the joy of being ourselves, being consciousness in such a unique form. There's no form like you in the whole universe. So how can we compare? And a deep breath. And then we can open our wings and embrace the second chakra, the lower belly. In the opening, daring to open any emotional wound that we may have been hiding out of fear of being hurt. And in the embrace, feeling how whatever looked like what we need to hide is actually wonderfully loved and cared for by your wider being. So healing can happen. All we need is to open. And then we can move to the first chakra, to the root center in the opening to that life energy that flows through the body for so many years, just being alive, opening to our sexual energy. It's a life-giving energy. And embracing, embracing the invisible in the visible, the life force in the body, the flow of existence through this form. And around the legs all the way down until you connect with Mother Earth. And this is a good moment to let go. Let go, give back to the earth anything you've been holding. So anything you know, anything you identified with, anything you believe, anything you think you are. And don't worry, you can have it all back later if you want to. But for a moment, become totally empty. Empty of knowledge, empty of everything. And be astonished and curious that even when you're totally empty, you're still here. So what is here when everything is gone? And then as you come up, you can unwind your wings around each other in a backward spiral, symbolically unwinding any residues of the holding fibers of the mind, until you stand open for a moment with your wings open. And perhaps you can recognize yourself as a being of light. Then you can bring your palms together, your wrists close to your nostrils, And taking 3 deep breaths of this fragrance into the temple of the body. Very good. And then you can sit. So I want to dedicate the light of the candle today to healing on every level. Healing on a personal level and healing of the world. Seems to be challenging. Almost, it's coming.
Steve's got another one.
We need another one. Very good. Thank you.
We need more power to heal the planet.
We need more healing power. Absolutely. Here we go. That's where male energy is helpful. Don't give up. Very good. And a little meditation. So you can close your eyes. Sit comfortably with your spine upright. Remembering that in meditation we allow simply whatever is. So it's a very feminine approach. We allow everything to be as it is. We allow the mind, whatever thoughts are moving. Sometimes meditators have the idea that they should stop their thoughts. That's a misunderstanding. The thoughts may get less, or they may sometimes stop when we don't interfere. But meditation means we can allow every single thought to be there. And in that allowing, the space of witnessing naturally arises. It's like when we walk at the beach and look into the sky and we see the clouds. Thoughts are like clouds, they move on the sky of the mind. And yet everyone knows that a little behind the clouds is the infinite sky. So the sky permeates, the space permeates every thought. The same with feelings and emotions. We can allow every feeling that is here, every emotion, every sentiment. No need to change anything. In that allowing, we are naturally becoming aware of the space that holds thought, emotion, feelings. We allow the body from this perspective. The body is also just like a cloud, something that is born and something that will die. And in this moment in meditation, we allow the body just to be what it is, with all its little ailments and with its well-beings and with its sensations. Most of our identity is connected to the physical body. So many of us believe we are the body. And yet, one moment of reflection realizes that if I can be aware of the body, then I am not the body. I'm the awareness of the body. And like this we can merge and melt even deeper than the body, deeper than the breath. Sometimes we feel I'm the breath, but breath comes and goes. In meditation, we can allow the breath to just has its natural rhythm. We often say, I am breathing. But are you really breathing? Or is breathing happening? If I was breathing, very soon I would forget and then I would be dead. So breathing happens by itself. Or we could say, I am being breathed. Same with the heartbeat. As we look deeper and deeper inside, we look deeper than all experiences. When I ask myself, who or what am I, deeper than all experiences? There's no more answer. And yet I am. What is this I am? rest here for a while. Rest as that which is aware of all experience. We will sit today for about 20 minutes, just allowing the silence, allowing the stillness, allowing the space that welcomes whatever comes, that lets go whatever goes, as we rest as that which doesn't come and go. Feel the silence. It permeates everything. Feel the stillness, the peace here. The natural, effortless presence. Feel how perhaps things that were in conflict within simply relax, simply fall into place. And from that depths inside, we can take a deeper breath. And we can gently become aware of the body again. The body was always here, held in who we are, held in that space. And perhaps you find that body and mind held in the real me in that space is actually love. We have been looking for love everywhere, overlooking that it is our nature. It is what already holds every experience. Then there's no need for any interpretation of experience. There is just what is. And we can be loose and natural. And we can take another deep breath and gently moving the body a little bit, allowing that life in the body, maybe into a little stretch. Until you find a good moment to open your eyes to a new moment here. So we can open the space, the circle a little bit if there's anything you would like to share or ask. And the invitation is also to the friends that are joining us online. If there's anything you want to comment or deepen, this is a good moment. And our friend Steve is here, he can read your comment and we can take it.
Can I share something from that?
Yes. Yes. You want to come here?
Yeah.
Then it's easier, then also the friends around can hear you.
Okay.
With the mic.
Yeah.
No?
Okay. I found, like I've been meditating for years, and what I got out of that meditation was I've always tried to silence the mind, to bring up blankness, stop thought. Whereas the guidance in that meditation was allow everything to be, which was so much easier.
It is, isn't it?
And then I found from that I could see that I was attached to the thought. In allowing the thought to be there, I thought I'm attached to that one, okay, I'll just hang that one on the wall. And I could see it still sitting there, but I'm over here, no longer attached to it, and
That's
no longer
right.
thinking it. And then before I know it, it's disappeared, and then another one sneaks along. And I got to where they just come in and drift out.
Beautiful.
Allowing them, but not trying to stop them. So.
Not trying to stop them, and then in that not trying to stop them, there's no grasping either.
Yeah.
No attachment either.
And if I did get a little bit attached to it, see that, accept
you
it,
see it,
and
exactly.
say okay, and just pass it over and let it keep going. So it was beautiful.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
It's a misunderstanding that I was living with for a long time. When I heard Osho talk about no mind, I thought I shouldn't have any thought, and it's impossible. It evoked a subtle resistance to thinking, and then thinking got more, because everything you resist
gets stronger.
Gets stronger.
Yes. No, that's good. So accepting is so easy.
Yeah.
To actually release it rather than to push it away.
Yeah.
Accept it, allow it to
Well,
flow.
then even now words become difficult because there's actually nobody to accept or not accept. It is. So there's no separate acceptor or non-acceptor. There's just a space in which everything is.
There's that thought of the thinker choosing whether or not to think the thought was really all it is, which is just another identity.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Great. Very good.
All right. I have a deeper question. Do you want to?
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So for many years I studied Buddhism. Yeah. Listened to tapes, read books, everything. And then I think about 13 years ago in New Zealand I had a huge awakening where I walked into the ocean and screamed at the sky and said, well, I've had enough. Like the pain body had been so strong for so long. I'd had enough, and I said, well, okay, I'm going to keep walking unless I have the answer. If there's more to it, I want to know. If it's not, I've had enough. So I found myself back in the Winnebago asleep. So somehow something turned me around and put me back. Then the next day I had the realisation that I'm not the story. All these stories I'd told myself, or you know, that I'd get lost in, as you were saying earlier, the identities and all that. All of that's nothing.
I'm not the story.
Not the story.
Yeah. What a finding, no?
Yeah, beautiful.
And how many stories are there? And we don't need to deny the story. We just see, I'm not the story.
Just not the story. So what arose out of that then is I read books that told me then, okay, now that you know that you're not the story, you're actually a spiritualist. You're no longer a Buddhist.
A spiritualist.
You're a spiritualist. So I'm identifying as a spiritualist, but since I've been coming to Satsang here, I know I'm a Buddhist. I know, how can you not be? You know, the compassion, the beauty, the love, everything that just permeates this room in my life. It's so much stronger from coming here. So I would like to, if you could talk on the correlation between all that. How does one stop being? Well, it's only my thoughts. It's only my beliefs. That my system changed from now that you've had this breakthrough. You stop being a Buddhist and you become a spiritualist. But I speak to so many people who are Buddhists, and I think my thoughts are, I came up through Buddhism, but then I look at it and say, did I really? Or am I still there and I'm just got a different...
Well, isn't being Buddhist and being a spiritualist just another identification?
Both are exactly that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but...
And who's seeing that? Is that which sees, is that any ism? Buddhism, Christianism?
Yeah, it's a nothingism.
Nothingism.
I have tried to describe that which sees, and I drove myself crazy one night. I was having an argument with two layers of me, had an argument. One said, you are an idiot, and the other one said, well, okay, who said that? So somewhere in there was two layers.
Yeah.
And then someone else said, well, if there's two layers, who's recognising those two layers? There must be a third layer.
Yeah.
And someone said, well, if there's a third layer, there must be a fourth layer. Recognise that. And I think I got to about 88.
Yeah.
And my mind said, shut the fuck up. and
shut the fuck up, I like that.
And the noise went, all the mind, the thought, everything just stopped. That endless loop tape thing that used to run, everything just went. My mind said, that's enough. And so I see it as I went back through all the layers of what I thought it was, but you could see back until I hit something that you can't actually see, but you can see out from. But you can't actually see it and describe it. It's not describable, but you can. There's a knowing.
It uses the body-mind to express itself.
Yes, but you can't see it.
No.
Whereas everything out in front of it, all those layers, you can see them.
Yeah.
You go back and then suddenly there's an essence or something that can look that way, but you can't name it, you can't see
the
it.
Great mystery. The great mystery. No?
Yeah, what's the answer?
It's only the mind that wants the answer,
yeah.
Because the mind wants to define itself.
Yeah.
Can we hang out
I'm happy to.
Can we hang out with no answer?
Because
no answer, every answer would be a lie.
Well, it'd be a thought, yes.
And every thought is a lie.
And if you can think it, you're not it. So.
And yet.
Did anyone answer my question, or did we just decide it didn't actually exist? Did it? no isms are...
Well, if anybody would answer your question,
But
the
I'll
answer
start there
would
with
be a
ism
lie.
question, yes.
No?
There's no isms. Yeah.
There is billions of expressions,
Yes.
but in whom or in what is the expression happening? I think this is such an important, or the most important question. No? And if you find an answer, pray that you find somebody that cuts your head there too. Because every answer is not really possible to define your infinity.
Everything arises out of nothingness, stillness.
Yeah.
And one, I'll just share this little thing helped me in those days was I was a cranky sort of person, and dogs barking, living in suburbia, dogs barking. After my experience in New Zealand, I then listened to the dogs, and every time the dog barked, I also noticed that between the dog barks, there was this silence. So I started thanking the dog because it was giving me this...
The insight
gift.
of silence.
Yeah, and then slowly I realised that without the dog bark, I wasn't recognising the silence. And it was the beauty of the dog barking became a beautiful thing because it was bringing me this other sense that came with it. And now when I'm walking in a room, the first thing I see in the room is the unseeable. It's full of silence. And everything arises out of...
Blessed.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm going now.
Great, thank you. It's beautiful. You know, this is the wonderful thing about, you know, sharing the space, because it cannot be described, even though we try. No? Sharing satsang is kind of the impossible attempt to point to the undescribable.
Yeah. But like you said, you're sharing the strengthening of silence. You've got it on your own, but when you're with other people in silence,
it amplifies, and it's then also easier to recognize. And then we touch a field of presence where all the distinctions begin to kind of meld into each other, into a certain experience of oneness, which is of course still only an experience. So even the so-called awakening experience, where you actually, if I look at, I had a few, but one very strong awakening experience where my spiritual ego was very, very happy to grasp something, was the recognition that everything is me. There's a moment of such an awe, wherever I look is me. But then the spiritual ego made a me out of that. I'm one with everything. And that's also a lie. So that's why, in a way, we're trying to express the impossible, the inexpressible. And on another level, it's so simple. We just are. That's it. We're just a presence. We're not something specific in time and space.
We can't be, but would you say we are one in that stillness out of which everything arises?
Yeah.
There's a line there between I am everything and I am the stillness, or we are all the stillness out of which everything arises.
Yeah.
Confused there.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that I am everything, because that's not true. But am I the stillness, everyone, the stillness out of which everything arises. There's a oneness there that I feel with everything that is not nameable. So my question is that where that is that stillness? Is that a oneness?
That's the attempt to define the undefinable.
Again.
And it's impossible.
I'm going home now.
Yeah. And we are laughing because we can see that is what the mind does. And the mind is a beautiful instrument. It kind of can question all of these things. And you end up being a complete failure because you cannot label. It's like very simple. It's like a TV screen that tries to label itself through the movie that shows on it, even though that the movie is also not real. It's just light and shadow on a screen. Or in Zen, in Japan, they have this analogy of the empty mirror, that we are like an empty mirror, and whatever comes in front of the mirror is reflected and then perhaps described or seen, but actually the mirror is always empty. And so there has been thousands of books trying to express in words what cannot be expressed. And yet why are we, at least this is also a mental explanation, but why are we so attracted to this? Because deep down there is a wisdom, there is a knowing that goes way beyond the definition, way beyond the labeling, way beyond the making anything out of anything. And that space is so, I call it yummy. That space is so rich. And it permeates everything. So when we try to put it into language, it becomes impossible. That's why people invented the idea of God. But it is divinity. It is It is.
Would that be because, for me, I would like to be able to explain it so that I can give it to everybody? But you can't.
You can't. But you can share. You know what you've been sharing.
Like you said, you can say what you're not.
Yeah. What you've been sharing in your own experience can sometimes help somebody who has a similar experience to actually recognize, right. I was so afraid to be nothing because I thought I only exist as something. And suddenly I can enjoy what the mind calls nothing because it is full of everything that I ever wanted. Like you call it stillness. Other people call it space or love or freedom or joy, or India is more refined. It gives it different expressions like Satchitananda, truth, consciousness, bliss, or Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, truth, godliness, and beauty. It's all kind of descriptions of the impossible, of who we are. Why is it so, at least for me, you have to check that for yourself, why is it so liberating to recognize that who you thought you are is not who you are. Because it reveals yourself as presence, as limitless consciousness. And when we are limitless, there's a certain experience through the body-mind of freedom, of gratitude, of love, of connection, of... You said it very beautiful, of the expression of emptiness into form, and that form is beauty. And what we have done with our human mind is we have tried to make a belief out of that which we are already, or try to make a commandment out of who we are already. So as children we get educated and we get told, we should be nice and kind and friendly and loving and altruistic and compassionate. And then we try to be that to get love. And we overlook that this is actually our deepest nature, is kindness, is love, is the feeling of being deeply connected, because ultimately I am you. And in the recognition, if I am you, how can I hurt you? It's such a wonderful mystery. Is anyone from...
Got a comment from Anne Lorenson.
Anne Lorenzen. Hi, Anne.
She said, I had some kittens playing on my knee the whole meditation. It became not a very deep meditation, but very in contact with my feminine allowance, acceptance, and also love.
Beautiful.
And then Eva from Sweden's asking, what is the name of the book about yin?
The name of the book, if I'm not wrong, it's called Das große Yin, die Kraft der Weiblichkeit, the big yin, the power of the femininity. Something like this, but I can write it to you. It's not yet published. It's written, and I got it sent to read it and have like a proofreading or write a comment. It's a very beautiful book. Can you write German? Das große Yin.
I put it in English. I said it's in German though.
Yeah, it's in German. Yes, the big yin. Thank you for being here. So next Friday, another chance to dive into the unspeakable. And invite your friends. It's such a precious gathering. The words are not so important, but the space we share, it's kind of what is the longing of every being, to just kind of be at peace, be relaxed in Tilopa's words. Tilopa is this beautiful tantric teacher many hundred years ago. Be loose and natural. Being loose and natural. And society asks you to be tense and unnatural. And then everybody tries to fight the tenseness and gets more stressed. So thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. There's a tea outside and we have some cookies if you're a cookie monster. And we have another satsang next Friday. Thank you. And thank you all the friends around the world. Namaste.